Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Borough Fan TV. It's James Hutchinson here with a special Monday night show. This week, I'm joined not only by Guesty, but I've also got Wee Philly from SAFC Fan TV and Owen, who's representing Newcastle Fan TV. Welcome to the show, lads.
Cheers, James.
You all right,
boys?
Yeah, great to see you all. Just to let you know, we're going to debate a few things this week, everybody. So, in no particular order, we're going to talk about the North East Big Three clubs, as well as delving a little bit deeper into the rivalry between the sides, as well as looking at some of the comings and goings in football at the moment. And we're not talking about your man popping up to Barnard Castle for a few days either. On a serious note, we are dedicating tonight's show to Bradley Lowry, an amazing young man. He would have celebrated his 9th birthday last week, and his battle and the foundation's work are supported by football fans throughout the country, no matter what their colours. If you're in a position to support the foundation with a donation, there's a link on this page that you can follow, and we'll also put the link up at the end of the show as well. So, like I say, this show tonight's dedicated to Bradley Lowry. As always, everybody out there that's watching, it's your show. As everyone's finding out at the minute, football's nothing without fans. So this is your platform. Get involved in the debate. We'll have a good bit of crack tonight, a bit of laugh with the lads, and shot in your questions, and we'll try and debate them with you as well. So first one, lads, is Derby days. In your opinion, what was your best Derby day? Or what was your greatest Derby day ever? I'm going to start this off with Wee Philly. What was your best ever Derby day memory?
Well, we'll start with, obviously, the derbies for us are probably different for you. I know, like for you, where you're probably your main rivals in your derby. For us, it's all about Newcastle, and I know it's the same with Newcastle. So for us, favourite derby would be a Newcastle one. And, of course, I'm getting on, so I've been to a few. But I think one of the standout ones was definitely the back in 2013, the start of our 6 in a row with Paolo Di Canio, who did his was the start of the six in a row, and he did his knee slide 3-0 at St James's, and we was like, I mean, the whole of Sunderland was buzzing. I mean, midnight, you know, we was in nightclubs and everything, still singing, and I still to this day don't know how I got home or what time I got home. It was just one of them. I mean, I've been to many derbies, but it was just the start of it all. We were terrible. We'd had a really bad season. Paolo Di Canio had just come in, and of course, you know, we weren't used to beating Newcastle. Newcastle always used to have one over on us, and so to go there and win 3-0 was quite some day, and that sticks in my memory. Nice. But if I had to say Middlesbrough derbies, I'd have to go back to Essen Park. Any one of the ones where you was allowed to take thousands. You'd be at 8,000-10,000 away fans. You could say we always used to get all along behind the goal, opposite what's your main end called? What was it called at
Holgate end.
Essen Park? The Holgate, right? The one opposite. And I remember times where we went there, and we had the whole of that end, and it's just the atmosphere of the place. It was we had some cracking ones down at your place down at Essen Park, so they were canny ones as well, you know.
Nice one, mate. How about you, Owen? What about your Newcastle special derby?
Well, I'm a bit too young to remember any good ones against the Borough. I mean, last time we played each other was 2010. I'm only 17, so any time before that, I cannot really remember. But if I was to pick a Sunderland one, I mean, it'll probably be the 5-1 back in 2010. Halloween, that was. Kevin Nolan with the hat-trick, and then Amiobi's volley as well. And that day was just, it's got to be probably one of the best matches in Newcastle United history, to be honest, along with, beating the likes of Barcelona. But that day went down pretty well amongst the fans, I'm pretty sure. And hopefully, if you do ever manage to make your way back up from League One, hopefully we'll have many more days like that ahead.
Oh, here we go. It's starting up already. What about you, Guesty, mate?
Yeah, can I do a sound check? Is there something wrong with my speakers? Because he sounds out like a Geordie. Is he doing a voiceover? Is someone doing a voiceover? Is someone doing it so we can understand him?
The subtitles
like
on.
Say, the thing is with Sunderland and Newcastle fans, when it does come to Derby Day, I think Willie, Owen, Philly, sorry, you'll agree, Owen, that you don't see the Borough as rivals. Am I correct?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Like you say, the derby that sticks out in my mind was what, the 96, 97 season, Coca-Cola Cup against Newcastle. There'd been turmoil in the club even that early on in the season when Emerson had gone missing. He'd gone AWOL back over to Brazil or something, and it was his first game back, and we played Newcastle in, I think it was the fourth round of the Coca-Cola Cup at the time.
Yeah.
And it was Emerson's first game back. And like you say, the atmosphere that night was electric. Derek White scored, put us in front. And then to get the crowd going even more, Shearer scored at the north end at that time, which was where the main bulk of our, noisiest supporters were. And he turned and gave the salute to the north stand. And that's it. The Riverside just went mental. And then the second half we went on, I think Beck scored and Ravanelli scored. And we went on, and I think it was the first time we'd beat Newcastle for a while. And that's the one that stands out in my memory. And then the one against the Mackhams was when Emerson and Robbie Mustoe scored at the Stadium of Light.
That was the first time we went there, wasn't it? Yeah. I
think we'd both been relegated, and, I think it had been to and fro the season before. I think Sunderland had beat us at the Riverside. And it was nice to go to the Stadium of Light and get a win. So they're the two standouts in man. But like Philly said, and Owen missed out, them derby games at Ayresome Park, and they were special times. Like you say, when as many away fans could go, it created the atmosphere was unbelievable in them games.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Just thinking, I think it's pretty obvious, and I don't think we're saying something that people don't know. I think Newcastle-Sunderland is the derby game in the North East.
Yeah.
So I'd be interested to find out from the two lads, first of all, Philly, how do you view Middlesbrough? What do you think of Middlesbrough? Is it a different game when you play the Borough to any other one, or how do you view it?
Well, for us, and I think I can speak for probably most Sunderland fans anyway, I think if you gauge it on, if we lose to Newcastle, it's bad times. But if we lose to Middlesbrough, so what? You don't feel it like you do, in the Sunderland Newcastle games. You're in there and you just do not want to lose when you play Newcastle. But with Middlesbrough, we tried to when there was just Sunderland and Middlesbrough, I think Newcastle had gone down, and I don't know if you had come up the Premier League or something like that. And we tried to bill it as the North East derby, and obviously I do my show in the pubs and that before, and we tried to big it up because the derby days against Newcastle are big business for us in the pub trade and that. Mm-hmm. But we tried to big up the Middlesbrough one, and it was just like it just doesn't work with Sunderland Middlesbrough like what Sunderland Newcastle does. Yeah. So I've got a lot of pals who are Borough fans. I've got loads down there, and I've been down to the stadium a few times. I've, like I said, down the Riverside watching Sunderland when we've played you. But yeah, how does it feel for you? So are you is Sunderland your main one, or Newcastle or Leeds or what? Because you're in Yorkshire, aren't you?
Yeah, small town in Yorkshire, yeah.
Yeah, we're definitely Yorkshire, man. Definitely. It's a strange one. It's a bit like Newcastle, massive city, but they've only got one club. You know what I mean? Where other cities, Bristol, they have two, Sheffield have two. So Newcastle are a bit like Middlesbrough. They're searching for a rival all the time. But like you say, you are just down the road, you know, to the Mags. I don't know. I don't know where the derby stands, whether it's Sunderland, Newcastle, or Leeds. Do you know what I mean? So I dare say if we ended up in the same league as Hartlepool, that'd be our biggest derby most probably.
I'll be honest, Tony. For me personally, I would always say they always seem to be a little bit of an edge to the Sunderland games. I think Newcastle do treat us with total indifference, and it just seems to be another game when we play Newcastle. I think when we play Sunderland, there is a little bit of a nasty little edge sometimes, which you don't get when you play Newcastle. And I just think there's something there a little bit between us and Sunderland, which isn't there when we play Newcastle.
Yeah, it's like you say, it's not that far, is it? What, 20-odd mile up the road? Yeah. So, yeah, like you say, there does feel to be a bit more needle when it's us and Sunderland.
Yeah. Lee Bailey's just come in there, said it's a derby when they beat us. It's a derby when they beat us, but when we beat them, it's just another game.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bit of that goes about as well, definitely. How about you, Owen?
For me personally, I think I don't see Borough as a rival, but there's definitely there's a hate there for sure. There's the fans don't like each other. It's easy to see, but it's not quite. The stakes aren't quite as high as a derby day against Sunderland. There's just something. There's something a little bit more. Seems to be a bit more bite with us when we play Uslot, and I think it's partly to do with us not playing Uslot in a while. I think that's partly what's happened to it as well, and you seem to forget as well how it's like to play Borough and whatever. But there's definitely more to a Sunderland game than there is to us when we play Borough.
Yeah, fair point. Do you think though that maybe Borough's emergence in the years when they had Robson and McLaren as manager, and they made big signings, got the cup finals, and dare I say it, they won a major cup? Do you think that put more pressure on Sunderland and Newcastle to up their game a bit, lads?
I mean, for me personally, I think I think the pressure on Newcastle to always provide something to the fans, whether it's a trophy, just showing ambition in general. I think it's not been something that's been pressured by Borough or anything. I think it's just always been there because look, we got a 52,000 seat stadium, a loyal fan base, like arguably some of the best supporters in the country. I think you can't. It's one of those things where you cannot just have that and not push for some sort of success in the end. I don't think it's pushed by Borough. I think it's just something that should be chased after as a club that's got all these things in place already.
All right, nice one.
But I bet your own. Obviously, I don't think whether you're old enough to remember the day we did win the Carling Cup, and you, Philly, that must have been a bone stuck in your throat when we did lift that trophy. You must have both been Bolton fans that day if you were watching.
It's for me. I mean, and it's the same. It's been the same with Newcastle, and well, it was all the North East teams until you won the League Cup down there. But I mean, I've been to Wembley 7 times there watching Sunderland, and I've never seen them win. And so it's like either I'm a jinx, and I did think in the playoff final last year, just the whole day felt different, and I thought, you know what, this could finally be it. And it was just, I mean, if we go to Wembley again, I'm going down expecting to lose, because I mean it was a killer. That last minute goal and stuff like that, and like I said, I'm sick of going to Wembley, watching Sunderland and just getting beat. And it was always the same, like I said, all the North East teams, and then you went and won the League Cup, didn't you? So
that was in Cardiff, though.
That's all you've well, that's all you've that's the only trophy you've won, isn't it?
Yeah.
As someone said, they won a cup on colour.
Philly, so do you think Jim Montgomery used all your luck up in '73 then? with that fluky save?
Well, I wasn't even living. I was born in Wigan. I wasn't even living up here then. So it was, and I was. In fact, I wasn't even born, unlike yourself.
What? How old are you?
yeah, you're only 23. I know
you need to get your makeup artist in.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid sitting down and watching the '73 Cup final. Like you say, it's one of my memories as a kid when Sunderland won the cup. You know what I mean? Against obviously Leeds were all conquering then, and when Sunderland went there and beat them, it was unbelievable.
Totally.
It was a lot, like you say, Wimbledon beat Liverpool, but I think the day Sunderland beat Leeds, that must be one of the biggest FA Cup shocks ever. That was a great game.
Yeah, well Leeds at the time were like what Man City are now. You know, I mean, they were, yeah. And you know, it was just a massive upset. So, but I mean, it's too long ago. You know, it's this shouldn't be happening. And this is the thing in the Northeast. The fans are so loyal and you know they deserve better. It's I mean, imagine if we were actually winning something every season.
Yeah,
it would just be unbelievable.
So, like you say, both clubs have massive fan bases. You've got two absolutely magnificent stadiums. You know what I mean? And the fans that's been going there over the years, and not to have seen one of yous lift the trophy over the last 50 odd year. God, it must be, like you say. Owen, you said that the fans go, you know, just want to see something and have the expectation high. But even that hasn't been there for the last few seasons, has it?
No, it hasn't been there for quite a while, I think, personally. Not since probably the early 2000s, when we're still challenging for the Champions League. Obviously, you've had the hint of the Europa League in there in the 11-12 season under Pardew, where we finished 5th. But it doesn't really count. To have that that quench for ambition, I think you need to be out there for a period of time so you can sort of see where you're going and see the path you're going in. You can't just dot about and have 2 relegations and one season be in the Europa League, then be lingering down the bottom of the table again. I think ambition for me is when you're repeatedly challenging at the same level and showing that you want to progress and move up the table.
Yeah,
James.
Yeah, fair point.
Like you say, it shows like this last season or the last few seasons where fans have been calling for Gibbo to sell up and things like that. When we look at these 2 lads, the owners that their 2 clubs have had and what they've done to them 2 clubs, you know, you've got to be careful which side your bread's buttered, don't you? You know what I mean? Yeah. We're so fortunate.
Yeah.
Where, you know, we follow Gibbo's ambition and his dreams, where these 2 clubs, they've been messed about so much by the owners, even going back to Freddie Shepherd calling all the Geordie girls slags and calling all the Geordie fans idiots for buying the Newcastle shirts.
Yeah. No, like you say, yeah, it's not great for us at the minute, but in terms of what we've achieved over the last 25 years, I would say for a club which I think it sort of goes without saying with 3rd in terms of the stature of the 3 clubs in terms of previous history, I think we've far exceeded our expectations and done more than both Newcastle and Sunderland in that time.
Yeah.
I think you're really fortunate that with Gibson, you've actually got a Middlesbrough fan, you know, and I think that's been your biggest thing. And as you know, with owners now, it's a rich man's plaything, is what a football club is. I mean, for me, Ellis Short, who had it before, Stuart Donald, you know, he was a billionaire American, was fine initially with it, but then he got bored with it, didn't want to invest in it, and this is why we're in League One. Fair play, he wrote off, you know, £140 million worth of debt or something like that, what we had. So at least he left it with a clean slate. The new owners were great initially in the fact that, you know, they were very open. You could speak to just the money. You don't have the back You know, I mean, he's worth about 8 million or something, Stuart Donald, and it's just not what you can do. With Mike Ashley at Newcastle, to be fair, when Mike Ashley went into Newcastle, Newcastle were in really bad financial state, and then and to be fair, when he sells now, he is going to leave them sort of in the black, But again, it's you need a fan of your club, and that's where you're lucky having Steve Gibson at the Borough.
Yeah. It's a fair point, Philly. Obviously, we'll just move things on a little bit now. We spoke last week, me and Tony, about how things might restart in terms of the season that hasn't finished and what might happen. One or two players have come out in the Premier League in recent weeks and said that they've got reservations about coming back, such as Danny Rose and Troy Deeney. Owen, do you have any sympathy for the players that are involved in this situation at the moment?
I think anybody that would be in their situation, I think you should have sympathy for them, because at the end of the day, it's a life-threatening virus, and you don't want people to die from it. Let's be honest. But I think if you're a Premier League player, you should be looking at what key workers are currently doing, going out and doing their job while the virus is going on, doing what's right for them. And I think footballers should just see themselves as a little bit lucky, because they're on these sky-high wages. They've been given a job. All they have to do is play 8 games or something like that left in the Premier League. I'm not quite sure the exact number of games left. I haven't checked. It's been that long. All it is 8 games, which isn't that much football. Get it bottled out. All the reservations are there to make sure you're safe. So if anything's unsafe, they're going to stop it. So everything's out there to keep your safety as a player the best it could possibly be. So don't just take the opportunity. I can understand the point that Troy Deeney's trying to make, because his 4-month-old child has got breathing difficulties, and I completely understand that. But for someone like Danny Rose, who since he's come to Newcastle has looked lackluster and lazy and just has that can't be bothered attitude, I think that's the sort of balance of player that you've got here. You've got players that genuinely don't want to harm people within their family, and Danny Rose, who just cannot really be bothered.
Right, fair point. I mean, just taking it with regards to the clubs in question, or our clubs, Philly, your situation, you're obviously in League One, and it looks like there's going to be a decision made this week about what's happening with the remainder of the season in that league. What do you expect to happen?
I expect the season just to be voided, unfortunately. I mean, it's not what I want, because obviously it's another season in this league and what have you. But I just think as you get lower down in the divisions, it becomes more of a financial thing, and some teams just won't survive if they've got to play and they've got no revenue coming in because there's no fans getting in the ground. They just won't survive. This talk of doing sort of like a little playoff with the 8 clubs, sort of sending Coventry up and Rotherham, who are in the top 2 places, and then sort of 8 teams below that having a playoff for the 3rd team that goes up, is, I think, the best we can hope for. But I just can't see it happening. And it worries me for next season. People are saying that, we could play most of the next season with no fans and that. Now, we should be all right to survive, but I think it'll wipe a lot of clubs out, because they're just, without that revenue from the fans coming in, they're going to struggle. And the only thing I can see in return is if they sold maybe tickets to stream, like you paid to watch the match live on a live stream, which then at least would give some revenue into the clubs. That could be something. But I fear it's going to be voided, and we just start again next season. But hopefully we'll have an answer to that this week. Hopefully.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw in Germany this week, Borussia Mönchengladbach. They've charged their fans, I think it's just under €20, to have a cardboard cutout of their face plastered onto a shirt, which is in the stands in the ground. So, and I think they had about 1,500 or something, or 2,000 this week, but they reckon it's going to be going up and up each home game. So I think clubs have got to get some like creative with getting money into their sides, haven't they?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I'd do that. It's a great idea. It's trying to find a way, like you say, coming up with new ideas to get revenue coming in.
Yeah. Guesty, how about you for the Borough? What do you reckon? Do you think we'll get our season finished? Do you think we'll get restarted?
When we spoke last week, I was pretty much sure in my head that I thought all the leagues under the Premiership would be, null and voided. It's, obviously we spoke about the promotion and the relegation. No matter what happens, that has to happen. No matter what league gets finished, for me, that definitely has to happen. But the way things are going with the testing and listen, if the players are going to be tested as frequent as what they're saying, I can see the Championship getting finished now. And my biggest fear there is will we stay up? Do you know what I mean, James? If the season finished tomorrow, we're all happy. But if the season continues, we're still in a hell of a dogfight to stay in that division.
Yeah,
that's my main worry.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
And on Owen's point, there, the players, like you say, Danny Rose, Kante, as you know, he's been given leave from Chelsea. He's training on his own. I don't think he wants to play. Like you say, Troy Deeney's an exception. Aguero, he came out saying he didn't feel like playing, but he's been back in training. Yeah, and I feel they do have to go in. Like you say, these frontline workers, they're putting their lives at risk every day. So you have discussions like this with family. If you were a nurse or were you a frontline worker, how would you feel about leaving your family, then coming home to us? You know what I mean? So I think they should, like, I'm not going to say man up, but I should really think, look at the tag, they're a professional, and, you know, everyone else is coming to their call for their duties. So I think some of them should have a hard look at themselves and, you know, get the kit on and turn out for the clubs.
Well, yeah, and the other thing I have to say about that as well is when Danny Rose came out and the manner he did it in, I think it was on an Instagram live, and he said something like, "Fuck the nation's morale" or something like that. And just the way that comes out, it just comes out as a negative thing, really. It's not like a polite decline. It's not like, look, I'm going to do this for the safety of my family. It's about him. And
I think to Danny Rose's defence, I think he struggles a bit with a bit of mental health problems, doesn't he? You know what I mean? And sometimes he may say things off the cuff. You know, I don't want to defend him, but I think it's been scripted in the past where he does suffer a bit mentally. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Good points made there, lads. Obviously, we're going to have to get the elephant in the room out now and talk about this Newcastle takeover. There's been much debate about it. Go on, Owen. What's your views? I suppose you're delighted about all this, aren't you?
Yeah, I think the whole fan base is delighted, to be quite honest with you. It's a case of when and not if now. That we've had people try to throw spanners in the works continuously with the fiance of the journalist that was allegedly killed by the Saudi government, writing letters to the Premier League, to be in sports writing to the Premier League about Saudi piracy. We've had it all. We've had everything to try and stop this.
Does it not bother you, Owen, that like people are saying about these things, and obviously saying about would they pass the fit and proper test to be running a football club? Is it just that you're so desperate to get Mike Ashley out the club, you'll take anybody on board, no matter what that might be or what package it might bring?
I think it's been widely discussed throughout Newcastle fans about the Saudi involvement, because obviously, you know, the human rights record isn't the cleanest from what we hear, and sorts like that. I don't think we'll take anybody but Mike Ashley. But if I could swap Mike Ashley for someone who spends less money but can provide stuff in things such as communication with the fans and actual care for the club, I would. But we've hit the jackpot, really. We've found a Saudi-backed consortium which will pump billions into the club. Someone who's leading the consortium in Amanda Staveley, who cares about the club and has laid out her plans beforehand as to what the direction she'd like to take the club in. The Reuben brothers, who are property experts and would help Newcastle in possibly buying the land back behind the Gallagher end, as well, involved in the deal. So I think Newcastle fans have spoken a lot about the Saudi involvement, and it's not really our thing to be commenting on. To accuse Newcastle fans of being not unlawful, but just not having not really regarding the Saudi human rights issues, I think is wrong. I think it's not our fault that we're being taken over by these people. It's Mike Ashley's deal. It's the Premier League say so. So if the Premier League say it's okay, the government say it's okay, Mike Ashley okays the deal, then it's not our issue. Yes, they're our owners, but we're not the ones negotiating.
Okay, mate. Philly, do you think it's a realistic opportunity or chance for Newcastle to finally end their 65-year domestic trophy drought?
Look, for me, initially, when it came out, I thought, well, we've seen it all before. Different takeovers have always fallen flat, so it didn't really bother me initially. But then, as it progressed further and further, the thought of it, if if this goes through and they become the richest club in the world, there's no doubt. And even with financial fair play, they're going to end up like a Man City. Yes, it might take 4 or 5 years for it all to kick in, and that. But I'm just thankful that I'm not me sort of 10, 15 years ago, because I'm older. I've a bit more chilled out, and now whereas like anything with Newcastle, losing to Newcastle, anything like that, I wouldn't speak for a week. I'd be kicking the doors, kicking the cat, and all that, and I just took it really badly. Whereas now,
it's Fleetwood.
I'm not as bad, to be honest, and
it's going to be massive,
It's not something. It's not something that I want to that I want to see. I don't want to see them winning the Premier League. I don't want to see them in Europe, conquering Europe and all that. But I suppose, as with many Sunderland fans, I'll be saying, you've bought the league, you've bought Europe and all that, and trying to find any excuse you can, when we all know we would love to be in that position, have billionaires come in and buy your club. Yeah. I still hope it falls through, but that's just the rivalry thing. But it ain't gonna happen. I'm just gonna I'll just move to Australia or something like that out the way. So yeah, it's scary. It's scary to think that they could become the world's richest club.
Philly,
it's just.
I feel you hurt, mate.
Yes, go on.
Philly, the thing is, like you say, you've got Everton now, Man City, Liverpool, Tottenham. All these clubs now are expanding. They've all got massive, massive amounts of money. So Newcastle will have all this money. They've only got the same players to buy as Man City, Man United. So it's going to inflate prices. But are these top players going to choose to come to Newcastle? I know the carrot will be dangled in front of them, but are these top players going to want to come to Newcastle?
It's all about money, innit? I love what you're saying. It gives me a little bit of hope to just hang on to. But it's all about money, innit? It's always been, for all of us, the North East region has been trying to attract players up here because we're out on a limb. Yeah, has always been a problem. But if you're going to wave bags of cash in front of them, then they'll come. Simple as that. So, but I just don't want to think about it. I'm like that. So
I don't think you subscribe to this, Philly. Here, Joe Scott. If the takeover happens, regardless of who you support in the North East, it'll be great for football in the North East in general. Do you go along with that?
No.
I think there's different. I think there's different levels of support and loyalty, and you get the people who say, "I want all the North East teams to do well" and stuff like that. I've never been in that camp myself because I just, it hurts. It hurts me when Sunderland get beat, and there is that rivalry. And as I've said, in my younger days, it was toxic. It's like the hatred and everything. I'm a lot more chilled about it now, but I'm still happy when Newcastle and Middlesbrough lose.
I think for me, I think for me, it's more. I think it would be good for Northeast football in general, and it's not. It's not that I don't love seeing Sunderland lose in League One and stay down and get relegated twice and all those beautiful things. It's not that. I think Northeast football Sunderland, Middlesbrough, Newcastle. We all used to be at that level, that Premier League or at least in the top two divisions, all three clubs. And now you have one Premier League club, Championship club, and a League One club. And I think for me, it will just boost Northeast football that little bit more because the Northeast has just slowly declined in its footballing ability, if you like. Yeah. And personally, as much as I love seeing yours two clubs struggle, I do miss like Tyne-Wear derbies and stuff like that. So I think it will be good for Northeast football overall. And, as much as I do love seeing clubs struggle and whatever, I think that eventually it could really pave the way for the future of Northeast football, definitely.
I think it's a fair point you make. I mean, to be honest, it was previously called a long time ago, the Northeast, the hotbed of football. I think it needs an electric blanket or something thrown over it at the minute, to be honest, lads. But do you think we'll ever get back to the days of like the mid-90s, late 90s, where all three clubs were in the Premier League? They were all not just making the numbers up, they were having a go at trying to do things in the Premier League in those days. Do you think we'll ever get back to those days, Guesty?
Well, like I've just been talking there with Philly about attracting players. At that time, the players that the Northeast was attracting and the football, the three teams were playing, it was unbelievable. The players that we seen at the Riverside in the late 90s and the early 2000s, you were in dream world. And then I hate to say it, but Newcastle were a great team to watch when Keegan was in charge. You know what I mean? And then, like you say, you'd have Monkeys Eid with the Mackhams finishing seventh, and But even then, Philly, when Peter Reid was doing well with Sunderland, I think it was somewhat similar at the Borough as well with Robbo. I think you sounded Peter Reid out as well, didn't you? And he was, taking the team in the right direction.
Well, Peter Reid I think it was 7 years at Sunderland. I mean, it was a good run for a manager in modern football sort of thing. The problem is we never took it to the next level. It was just, but that wasn't down to Peter Reid. I believe Peter Reid, part of him coming to the end of his time with us was because he wanted more money investing in the team, because we were, like I said, we were 2 7th place finishers, and in all my time watching Sunderland, I mean, I've watched them all my life, like 30 years, and and
get the abacus out.
30 years. How old are you?
The thing is in all my time watching Sunderland.
Are these two in Ian's other bedrooms or what? Because he's not a Geordie, but not in a cat. And if he's on, what is he? 37-year-old.
Yeah. The thing is that the sad thing is, and again we say about trying to get all the Northeast teams, would be good to have us all back in the Premier League and that. And the sad thing is, all the time I've watched Sunderland, the best I've ever had is a 7th place finish. I've been to Wembley, we've done that, seen them lose and that, and a 7th place finish in the Premier League 2 seasons running is the best I've seen, and it's just not good enough, really. It's the Northeast, the passion of the fans and all that just deserve better. Really, we all do.
Yeah, fair point, Phil. I mean, next thing I was going to raise was during lockdown, I took the opportunity to watch the Sunderland Till I Die series. I didn't watch the first one, so I watched both series, and it was interesting in terms of a bit eye-opening in what you saw going on behind the scenes. But I think what couldn't be disputed was the fans and what they took on and the knocks that you had, and irrespective of the rivalry, I think you saw things there. You think, well, that's happened at our club type thing, and we've been there, been through that sort of situation. How did Sunderland fans themselves see that series?
I mean, me personally, I loved it, and I thought it showed warts and all. It was a good. I mean, obviously, Full 73, the company who make it are all Sunderland fans anyway, and it give you an insight into stuff you wouldn't normally, you wouldn't normally see, and it's that, like you said, that the passion of the fans. It's one of them things for me. What gets we get taken advantage of, because you'll all say when it's. I mean, Newcastle tried it, over the last few seasons. Right, we'll have a boycott. Don't go to the game. We won't go, and all that. It just doesn't happen because we're too passionate, and because of that, the owners take advantage of that. If people did stop going and it started hitting the owners in the pocket, we probably all be better off. But the series itself, I think Sunderland fans enjoyed it. It's like you say, that the passion of the fans came across, and a good thing with it is it's give us worldwide exposure. We have loads of people like from Argentina and Brazil, and they'll message our channel and stuff, say, "Oh, we've watched Sunderland Till I Die, and we're out with Sunderland fans living over here," and stuff like that. And that can only be good for us and the Northeast, really, I suppose.
Yeah, fair point, mate. I mean, looking at managers now at our three clubs as well, bring you all in on this one. It seems for various reasons that the managers at each of our clubs are under a little bit of pressure at the moment, rightly or wrongly. I don't know how you feel about that. We'll start with you, Owen, because obviously the situation at Newcastle is in terms of potential takeover. And is Steve Bruce the right man to take the club onto the next phase, or do you think he deserves more of a chance?
I think if you look at what he's done this season, after Benitez left at the end of last season, whoever came in to replace him was going to have a tough job to not only get results but keep the fans on side. And I think with Bruce this season, I wouldn't say he's necessarily kept the fans on side, but he's got a lot more supporters than he had to begin with. And he's got the results that were needed. The football has been atrocious, don't get me wrong. But the results have been there, and there's been moments this season that we haven't had for a long time. Just moments you'll take away from the season and remember for a long time as well. But for me, I think Bruce, I'll give credit to him. Fantastic job this season, but he's not the man to be managing a football club with billionaire owners. It's like it comes back down to the situation that Manchester City had when they were taken over. They gave Mark Hughes the chance to prove he was the right manager, and it didn't exactly go very well. And I think we should just cut out the middleman in this one and just say, look, Steve, you can stay to the end of the season. You see it out, and then we leave it on good terms. You're not sacked. It's just a mutual departure, and I think it's probably the best way forward, personally, because it's not been an enjoyable season. But I think a lot of fans respect the job that Bruce has done this season, and we wouldn't want to just throw him out the door. But I think a lot of us think that he's not the right man for the job. And you think of the names that are being linked to Newcastle to take over as manager. There's a possible return for Rafa, Pochettino, Allegri's been linked. So all these names as well. I think once you're offered these names on a silver platter and you've got Steve Bruce who wants to prove his point, I think your head starts to turn towards the silver platter. And yeah, I think for me personally, it's time to move on after the takeover goes through.
Yeah, it seems harsh because, like you say, I don't think he's done a bad job under the circumstances. No. But I think that's probably what will happen. Guessing, what about with the Borough? Do you think it'll depend on if we get this season finished and how it finishes, or do you think even if we were to get relegated to League One, we'd still have the same manager next season?
Yeah, I still, like you say, the run of results that we've had this season, the way our season just capitulated after 2 games. Like you say, Gibbo's done it with every manager he's had. He's showed faith in Woodgate. Obviously, he's a novice. He's still learning. He doesn't come across in his press conferences as a 100% manager. He might be a good coach, but he just, his persona and everything just doesn't come across right. He seems arrogant towards some of the fans, and it's a test. I can't see him sacking him. I think like I've said earlier, if the season does start, we are in one hell of a dogfight to stay up, and if we do go down, I think we'll still be stuck with Woodgate, James.
Yeah.
So unless, like fans have been saying before, bring someone in alongside him. But we've been down that road before, and we lost 2 good managers at the end of that season because Venables chose to go on TV and Robbo, went his way. So I think we'll still be stuck with Woodgate, no matter which way the season finishes, James.
Yeah.
And like you say, on Steve Bruce, I think you say if that takeover does go, that's going to be a massive job, and I don't think Steve Bruce will be capable of running a club.
Yeah,
that's going to be that big.
Yeah, go on, Philly. It's Sunderland. You've got Phil Parkinson there, and it's been a bit up and down since he took over earlier in the season, hasn't it?
Again, yeah, I suppose with Phil Parkinson, had the season ended normally and he didn't get us promoted, I think it would probably have been time for a change. Though it's that same old thing of where, you want a bit of stability. We change managers far too often.
Yeah.
I think personally he should be given. He started really badly, but it looked like Aidan McGeady was a real bad apple, and we didn't realise at the time because the results weren't going our way. But obviously behind the scenes, Phil Parkinson was dealing with this, and eventually got him out. And to us, he seemed like the golden boy. Aidan McGeady was brilliant last season, and that. But then obviously, he was causing all sorts of mayhem in training. So we got rid of him, and when he did, we started getting a run of results and did really good up until the last sort of 3 games, really, before it all ended, which has ended up putting us out the top 6. So we was doing all right. I think he should certainly be given another season because of how this season's ended. Give it a go there. But I did like the fact that if I was thinking of somebody else coming in at the level we're at now, Nigel Clough, who's just left Burton, I think would be a good fit for us at this level. Yeah. The problem is a lot of Sunderland fans can't get to grips with the fact that we're in League One, and that's what we are. We're in League One. You have them going out saying we should be spending so many million on this one and that one, and you just can't do it. We're actually in League One. That's where we are. Yeah. But yeah, I think Phil Parkinson should certainly, if this all ends now this week, then he should have another crack at it next season, and hopefully he's the one.
No, nice one. Last question, lads, before we go. Recent years have seen like the non-league scene take off in a big way in this region. We've got teams like Spennymoor, South Shields, Stockton Town, Hebburn Town, all getting good crowds. Why do you think the non-league scene's really taking off in this area? Any reason for that, Owen, do you think?
It's hard to say, really. It could be down to how the clubs are struggling or the way the clubs are being run. And fans of these clubs are then going off to support non-league teams because it offers them a closer engagement to those clubs. Or it could just be something completely different and trying to back your local smaller club. It could be something like that. It's hard to say, really. But I don't think it's a negative thing at all to go and allow your local team to attract a bigger crowd. I think it's brilliant for football overall, brilliant for grassroots football, brilliant for Sunday league football, non-league. It's brilliant, and I fully encourage you any fan to go do that at least once or twice a season, whatever, when your team's away from home or whatever, and you're not going away from home. If your local team's at home, go ahead. For Newcastle fans, I encourage you to go see Gateshead at home. If if Newcastle are away from home, that sort of thing, because it's important. These clubs need to keep afloat somehow, and the only really way they can keep afloat, unlike teams in the top 4 divisions, is by attracting crowds and getting the money in from tickets to the match. So I fully encourage it.
Yeah, good. So I mean, Philly, down your way, South Shields have taken off massive the last few years, and I think there's quite a lot of Sunderland fans that go there, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame for South Shields because they were miles clear at the top of the league, and then when this virus kicks in and it's all scrapped, and like I said, they were miles clear. They were guaranteed to be going up, and I don't know if it's because I think the standard of the lower leagues now has sort of upped its game, and I don't know if it's maybe like league clubs now are happy to send fringe players down to like the lower leagues, which is creating a higher standard. I don't know what it is. I don't know why all of a sudden we've had this surge of of the northeast teams, doing well in the lower leagues. Like I said, South Shields are just unbelievable at the moment, and really professionally run as well. It's run like a professional team how they do it. So it's but why it is, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess we've spoke about this before, haven't we? And there's teams in this part of the northeast. Got Stockton Town, Gisborough Town as well, Redcar Athletic, all well-run clubs doing well and getting decent crowds. And I think even the standard of football now in non-league football is probably a lot better than it was, say, 15, 20 years ago as well, isn't it?
I think a lot of it's down to, like you say, these academies like Sunderland, Newcastle, Middlesbrough, they take on so many kids, and a lot of these kids are coached really well. They go through the different age groups with their clubs, and obviously they're not going to take them all on. So a lot of these players, they've had a good upbringing, a good insight into the game, and, they still want to keep playing. And a lot of non-league clubs are profiting from, the big teams spending money on these players when they were kids. And that, like you say, for the northeast, the way things are going, like you say, Gisborough have always had a good team. Stockton are doing really well, and Redcar, I never thought I'd be saying this. You go down to where Redcar play now, and it's absolutely fantastic, the facilities that they have.
Yeah, good point, mate. I don't know about you there, Philip. 2 posh rivals. Have you been called posh before, mate?
Never. I get it with Owen though. Owen
might have been posh in Wigan.
Lads, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on tonight. It's been fantastic. Really enjoyed the crack. Really enjoyed your views as well. Been great to speak to you all. Hopefully we can do something like this again in the future. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. Thanks for having us on. It's been a pleasure. It's been a good crack. I thought you was going to blow the tits off me, but you didn't.
Just easing you in, mate.
Yeah.
All right, Phil.
Right,
definitely do it again. We'll do it again.
Yeah, brilliant, fantastic. Just to let you know, next week, Borough Fan TV, we've got a special one on Monday night. We've got 80s legend Gary Hamilton joining me and Guesty on the show. So if you've got any questions for Hamo next week, get in touch with us during the week and we'll put them to him on next Monday night show. And obviously, we've got the Bradley Lowry Foundation link there. So if you're in a position to help out the foundation there, please do so. It's for a fantastic cause. Stay safe, everybody. Thanks for watching tonight. Take care. Up the Borough.
Up the Borough.
Oh, no, not up the Borough.
You see.